So I really like the fact, I feel like the first 4 weeks of this podcast were kind of like, you know, it kind of sucked not having a video to release. You know what I mean? Like we were releasing it to the patrons, and thank you to all of you. But I'm saying we didn't have anything to release publicly, and it was just kind of like, man, I can't wait until the 30 days is over.
Mm-hmm.
Because like now
like,
yes, it's older, but now every week there's a new podcast video to release on the channel. Because like, you know, last week's, so it's episode 1 that went live last week, and it has like, you know, over 600 views. You know?
Oh yeah,
which, you know, on top of all the listens that we're getting, you know, for the audio version, like, you know, we're getting over like 1,000 people listening or watching each episode.
I gotta look at those comments.
Awesome.
There's I know you read one of them last week, or was that on episode 0 that you read?
That was on episode 0. I haven't checked the comments on episode 1 lately.
Yeah, as long as they don't say the quality went off a cliff immediately in the first episode. The first real episode. Once these guys started doing it for real, it started sucking.
Yeah. Speaking of all that, what is this, episode 7 now, I think?
This is episode 7,
right?
yeah.
So you're listening to episode 7 of Here's My Question for You. I have tea today. Normally I have water, but it's very cold.
Oh, you know, I was
California cold anyway.
I was having, and this looks like garbage, but I was just having a protein shake.
Is that a mason jar with a handle?
No, it's just like you ever seen like the Ninja blenders?
Yeah.
So that's one of those, like the blender part like screws on here, and then you fill it with stuff and you just drink it. So
was that like your lunch?
Yes, for today it was going to be. Yeah, I mean.
Was that chocolate? Because it looks kind of brown.
Yeah, it's chocolate, and I put some...
So is your face okay? Because last time we talked about how chocolate upsets your whole face.
Yes, it's totally fine with this. You know, I think it's just certain... Like, maybe it's milk chocolate. Maybe it's milk that does that.
Oh, it could be. Because I was disappointed because when you said you guys don't have C's candy there, I was like, oh, I'm going to send you a box of C's candy. But then, like, the very next thing you said was that, like, you know, chocolate irritates your face. And so I was like, oh, maybe I'll just buy myself some C's candy.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that it's just like milk chocolate. I don't drink much milk these days. Although, you know, I like milk.
Yeah.
You know, for especially like whole milk. Whole milk is like a dessert. It's so good.
No, whole milk is like the only milk. As far as
it may as well be, yes. But
yeah,
you know, if you know, it's like great having it when you're like as a child, and then I was like, well, you know, there's just too much fat in that. I can't. As someone who's struggling with their weight, I'm like what's some things I can cut out? Like, oh, I'll just like start drinking like skim milk, because like when I was at school, you'd always have 2%. And then, but you know, like whenever my kids had whole milk and they would eat their cereal and they wouldn't drink the milk, I'm like, I'm just going to have that. Like that is why.
What kind of cereal were we talking about?
Well, I mean, it would just be like anything. It just depends.
Well, I'm just saying, like
maybe,
some
like Cinnamon Toast Crunch, maybe, or
okay, that's what I'm saying is like a cereal like that. You know, that the leftover milk is precious because now it's like cinnamon toast milk.
Yeah. And
if it was just plain Cheerios, then it's like you might as well just take the milk and pour it back into the jug, right? Because it didn't didn't do anything.
But you know, like I couldn't get my kids for the longest time to like have that milk, and I'm like, why are you guys like leaving this stuff in there? And I can't pour it out, and you know that is the reason why parents get fat, is because they just eat the leftovers that their kids don't eat. Kids can sleep as much as they want or eat as much as they want, and like most of them don't want to do either. It sucks.
I agree.
So yeah, I mean, I had some protein shake. I don't know if I told you this, but I've started going back to the gym and working out.
You did mention that, yes.
Yeah, like I don't know. So this was like my second week, and the first week I was just kind of doing some cardio, kind of getting myself back into it, and last weekend I started like actually lifting, and it was like I've just like been in pain. But like
you're actually lifting. You're not just doing like okay.
Like so I'm lifting, and you know it's just it feels really good. Did I tell you that when I went in there, I went to so I had a membership at Planet Fitness, and I hadn't been in there in a while, and I walked in there for the first time and said, I haven't been here in a while.
You told them that.
Yeah, because when you scan, and the thing is like I'll get into this in a minute. There was times where I thought about just canceling my membership.
I don't think they don't let you.
Well, they do, but you have to go in and do it in person, and that's why
they make it as difficult as possible.
Exactly, and I think that's why people just sit there and let them that's probably where Planet Fitness makes all most of their money is just siphoning that $10 a month out of people's
Guaranteed.
bank accounts for who have stopped going but don't want to go in there to quit, I guess, and just cancel their membership. And I was that's what I was doing. I went in there, I haven't been here in a while, and they're I scanned my thing and they're yep, you haven't been here in 979 days.
Wow, it's almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
So think of how much money that is.
Yeah, that's what
or don't actually.
That's because they at the beginning of the year they charge you $60 for the year, and then they charge you $10 a month after that. So it adds up for sure, and I guarantee you that is where they make most of their money. Just because
I think
there's people that
right.
just. I tried to cancel online. It was probably halfway through lockdown and stuff. I'm I just shouldn't be spending this money, so I'm going to stop. And they're you have to go into a store and cancel it.
And and there's no logical reason for that except for the obvious, which is that they're trying to make it as difficult as possible.
Yeah, and also hey, well you're here, you might as well work out.
Instead of canceling, why don't you get your fat ass through the door over there and go do some squats?
Yeah, that was kind of one of the reasons I stopped working out is because I messed up my knees doing squats years ago, and it's better now. At least I haven't had any problems with it. But I was doing squats, and I must have messed up something in my knee, and I just had this weird kind of painful tickle behind my kneecap.
Don't mess with your knees, dude.
Yeah, exactly. So
So since you've been going back to the gym, I'm just curious because I saw somebody on Reddit a while ago made this comment, and I'm just curious if it's just their experience or it's really true. They said that now when they go to the gym, you're constantly tripping over people's tripods and whatnot because everybody in there now is a wannabe Instagram or TikTok influencer.
I don't.
Or are you doing that? Are you taking a tripod or a GoPro or?
I bring my GH5 and my GH6.
Yeah, so you can get a 2-angle thing going on.
Plus, it's got these these Rode microphones, these wireless microphones, so I can and then also interview people while I'm doing it. No, I don't see people recording videos or with tripods or anything like that. But I will tell you that compared to even last time I was there, almost 3 years ago, you can definitely tell the influence that Instagram has had on styles at the gym.
Yeah, you think people are putting more effort into looking good while they're working out?
Yeah, and also wearing less.
Oh, I see. What do you what are you wearing when you go in there? You got some tight little
exactly what I have on right now. Yeah, this is.
I'd walk in there with a flannel shirt on and be "Hey, are you done with that machine soon?"
I'm almost kind of probably embarrassing. People are "What's this guy's deal?" Because I don't have a lock for a locker, so I tend to keep my stuff on me as much as I can. So I got a little fanny pack that I wear.
But why? Why? You just don't want to stop at Target or something and just pick up a lock real fast?
No, I just rather keep all the stuff on me, I guess.
All right. Yeah.
I put my sweatshirt or jacket and hat in the in a locker. But basically I just have I got it right here. Just like a fanny pack. It just goes on. I got some got these on clearance from Target, even though they were I think for women, but they're just gloves for lifting.
I wish so much that fanny packs could be. I've said this on Twitter one time, but for the same reason what I was saying earlier about I don't want to wear headphones on the show because I don't like the way it makes me look. I want so bad to wear a fanny pack, but I just can't. Like
No, they're super convenient.
I'm too self-conscious. But it's just like these days, like now you have to carry like more and more stuff, just in
And
your
phones are
daily
getting
life.
bigger.
Yeah, and it's like if you go to like REI or something. I don't know if you guys have REI there, but
What does it
it's
stand
like
for?
they sell like outdoor clothing and stuff.
Okay.
It's like a
This
whatever.
like basically, are they similar to like Dick's Sporting Goods?
No, REI is where. Well, I don't want to say that, but I'm saying you go there, you get like it's all like Patagonia and like Mountain Hardwear and like the foo brand people who want to look like that's a big thing where I live, like Northern California.
They want to look
like
good
this,
working out.
No, it's not about workout clothes. It's like the style is called like Patagucci, because
Yeah.
like you're wearing like a Patagonia down jacket, and
Yeah.
like whatever other brand like flannel shirt under that, and like some hiking boots, and even though you don't hike, you know what I'm saying, and that's just the way a lot of people dress here or whatever. So we have like REIs,
Right,
everywhere.
right.
What was my point even bringing that up now?
About fanny packs.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. They have a really cool selection because, you can imagine if you're a hiker or whatever, like then like a fanny pack becomes like super convenient. And so they just have like a really cool selection. I'll go in there and look like, oh man, that's like a super rad looking fanny pack. But I just can't,
Yeah, I mean, it's not something you could just like wear. Like I wouldn't wear it with like like the outfit you got on right now with your new shirt. I probably wouldn't wear a fanny pack with that. But like,
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm wearing sweatpants and like maybe I'm the only person at my gym that like wears a fanny pack. But
Yeah. So speaking of fanny packs,
yeah,
what a crazy transition this is going to be. The night before last. So I don't know if you ever do this, like, sometimes, a lot of times I listen to music while I'm doing something, right? But I'm trying to put on something I can kind of just ignore, but I just don't want silence, So
Yeah.
it's like if I'm writing a
Isn't
script
that
for my
what-
show or something,
sounds
then
like
it's like,
something that Rob would say in High Fidelity.
he said exactly that. When he said that, I was like, I can feel that so much. I just want something I can ignore, And but sometimes I'll want to like just put on a movie, right?
Yeah.
But it has to be a movie that I don't really need to pay attention. Like I would never put on a movie I've never seen before, for example, because I'm probably going to want to watch that. But something I can just have like running on my iPad off to the side, like some old favorite of mine while I'm, like I said, writing a script or something. And so it ended up not working out because I wanted to pay attention to the movie more than I was anticipating. But I put on Napoleon Dynamite, which I haven't seen that movie in
Yeah.
probably 15 years.
It's probably, I mean, I don't even think I've seen that movie all the way through in one sitting.
You don't care for it, or
There's something like, I don't know, like it has like such a weird feeling to it. Like it's just,
it does. I mean, it's a very strange movie. I mean, I enjoy it, but it's definitely a strange movie.
yeah.
And I don't even really have anything to say. It just, I don't know. I enjoyed watching it, but there's still things in that movie where I just like I don't really get it. Like when they were writing the script for that and they put that in, I'm like, what is that supposed to? Like even like the very first scene of the movie, like Napoleon comes out of his house and he's waiting on the end of his walkway. The bus comes and picks him up. He goes and sits in the very back of the bus and is like looking to make sure that the bus driver doesn't see him. And he pulls this action figure out of his pocket that has like, 20 feet of like fishing line tied to it.
Yeah.
And he throws it out the window and it's
Right.
just like, so that they're like towing this action figure behind the bus.
Yeah.
Like, and I can only think, there's so many things in that movie that are just sort of like little references to just growing up in the 80s,
Yeah.
things that if you're not our age, you're just not going to understand some of that stuff. Like, maybe even, I don't know if the boondoggle keychains are still a thing. Like maybe those still are, but so it made me wonder, like it was tying an act like a G.I. Joe or something to a string and throwing it out the bus window like a thing. Cause I rode the bus to school for a few years and I don't remember us ever doing that.
Yeah, I never did anything like that. I did a lot of stuff with GI Joe, like destroying my action figures.
Yeah.
Remember like commercials for GI Joe? They'd always be playing on this like really awesome like outdoor set.
Oh yeah. It's like, yeah, if you were a kid that lived like up against the woods, you could probably, recreate.
Yeah, exactly. That was a big thing for my brother and I growing up. We would always like if we were, going to my dad's house. My dad like lived in this house. He lived in many houses, but then he lived in this one house that he like kind of built himself, or like bought the land and had people build it for him. But
Yeah.
like back in the woods, there was like some remains of like some old house, like a stone house.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like this bridge going over like these kind of like ruins. And I have no idea when like somebody lived there because it's just like, it's almost like the house like exploded or something. But it was just like,
Could you, like when you were asleep at night, could you hear the screaming coming from the ruins?
yes.
Yeah.
I barely ever slept at my dad's house. I mean, it was just not something that, like we did very often. But we'd always go out there and play out there. And, like our big thing was like, oh man, this would be an awesome place to play G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
And that's whenever we would come to a place that like looked like it'd be fun to play G.I. Joe, like in one of those commercials, we'd be like, oh, it's like, this would be an awesome place to play G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
Like,
you know what that makes me think of? Like, so growing up, my best friend, his name was Jonathan. Like, Jonathan had like way more cool stuff than me.
Mm-hmm.
And like, he had a huge collection of Star Wars toys.
Oh, nice.
But I'm talking about, this was like, early to mid 80s. So it's not like, oh, these are collectible. It was just like,
like this guy right
get
here.
him for his.
Can't really see him.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, he's
had
like well loved. He's been like.
Yeah. I think the only one I have left, I have a Luke Skywalker from when I was a kid, and it's pretty beat up too, or he's pretty beat up, excuse me. But no, Jonathan it was like a whole cabinet in like their front room where you opened the cabinet, like 2 cabinets, and it was just full of like action figures and spaceships and like sets. Like he had the Ewok play set, he had the Jabba the Hutt play set, et cetera, et cetera. But I remember one day we went out into his backyard and just, in a patch of dirt, we dug a hole and like made our own Sarlacc pit. Like we even put sticks in there so it looked like those like teeth, like inward facing teeth or whatever that the Sarlacc thing had,
Yeah,
so
before they
that's
like
the closest
painted it
I
with
ever got to
with the CGI like worm thing that comes out.
Yeah. Oh, see, I'm really good at transitioning.
Of CGI worm things coming out of
No,
holes.
just speaking of Star Wars.
Okay.
Because so this, I'll just say this was my main thing I was going to bring up today. So
okay,
but I don't think it's going to take the whole show or anything. But and so this is a topic or whatever that I'm bringing up based on a couple of things that you've said previously.
okay.
No, it's nothing bad. I'm not. There's no chops busting going on.
Okay, no gotchas.
But no. But like last time I brought it up again, like how you had said that the original Star Wars trilogy is something that you can just watch like over and over and over again, right? And so I was thinking about like what would be like the album, like, or some examples of like album versions of that, like albums you can listen to over and over again, because like. And again, I'm not trying to bust your chops, but it's just like when we talked about Radiohead and, you mentioned how you didn't like Kid A or Amnesiac. I was just like, it kind of blows my mind because, I don't know. And I'm not trying to change your mind, you understand? I'm just like, tastes are different or whatever. I think like OK Computer clearly is like, that's their best album. That album is like a flawless masterpiece or whatever. But even just since we had that conversation, I've probably listened to Kid A like 10 more times. Like I can just listen to Kid A like over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And but even the same thing with Amnesiac, and especially now that they kind of re-released it as one big double album, Kid Amnesiac, because now I can just listen to the whole thing like over and over again. Although I had a question actually, just real quick about that, since you're not super into those. Did you ever listen to the live EP that they released like right around that time? Like there's like it's a live EP, but all the songs are from Kid A and Amnesiac.
No,
but,
I had the one that they did like that had all the B-sides of OK Computer though. I listened to that a whole bunch. They had like what was that? I just had it in my mind of what it was. Had like Palo Alto, I think that was one of the songs on it. In the city of the future.
I have that. It's like a double CD.
Yeah.
You're talking about where it was like the special edition where you got the album on one CD and then B-sides and whatnot on another CD. Yeah,
right.
I have that. But anyway, I mean, I just think so. The EP is just called "I Might Be Wrong," which is also the title of one of
I
their
might
songs.
have that.
But
now that I think of
some
that.
of the songs are just rearranged in a way that you might find that you like it a little bit more. I don't know. I was just going to throw that out there. You can check it out. But again, I'm not. The fact that you don't like those albums is totally fine. But it just made me wonder, like, what would be like? Do you have any albums where it's like I could take that CD and stick it in my CD player and push the repeat all button and let it play all day and not get sick of it?
Well, I have a lot of them, but when you say that, the one that immediately jumps into my head, and this you might be aghast at this. And this is an album that I like. Before I had a CD player in my car, I put it on cassette, and I just like listened to it for months on end.
Mm-hmm.
And that was Hole's "Celebrity Skin." I love that album so much.
I mean, I'm not a Hole fan, but I'm far from aghast.
Okay.
I don't know what, like, as soon as you said that, I was just trying to think of like what's it going to be, like Collective Soul or something. But no, I mean, that's a well-regarded album. I just personally don't care for Hole or for Courtney Love, especially. So
yeah, well, I mean, a lot of people don't. I saw her like solo, like when she had like her own like a solo album or whatever, like in New York. But before that, I was so disappointed that I was gonna like, I had tickets to see Hole, who were touring for that album.
Yeah,
and they were unfortunately touring with Marilyn Manson, and I was like, I just want to go and see Hole, and I would leave.
So who was the opener and who was the
Hole was the opener, I believe. But of course,
so easy. You should just go watch Hole and then
exactly. Now, I mean, that's what I would have done. But of course, like, they hated each other, and then eventually, like, the tour barely even lasted very long. It was like Metallica and Guns N' Roses, where they were going to tour and then they hated each other.
Right. Well, I think they hated each other before too. I think they just
I think that probably Courtney Love and Marilyn Manson hated each other like before.
Although really, I
think
think
we're
it's
just
just
do it. It's going to be funny. But
yeah,
they couldn't. I mean, of course, they wouldn't be able to stand each other for that long.
Yeah. Although as far as Metallica and Guns N' Roses go, I don't think you should say they hated each other. It's really just Axl Rose and
Yes.
Like, it's not like the Metallica guys weren't cool with Slash. Like, who doesn't like Slash?
Right.
Yeah. Was Celebrity Skin, was that the album where like pretty much Billy Corgan wrote the whole thing?
Yeah, and that probably
that's probably why it's good.
Exactly. Because if you listen to and I like Hole's "Live Through This," especially the first song, "Violet." Like that's great, but every single song on that album kind of devolves into a Nirvana, Nevermind-esque screaming, like the last verse.
Yeah.
So it's it's a good album, but Celebrity Skin, I just think it's kind of like this. It's hard to like really classify. Like I would say it's like almost like popish in some ways.
Yeah.
But maybe not. I don't know. Like I really love that album. And sometimes like the first like 4 songs on that are a good like opener. Like I used to always think about like, oh, what are some like the best like 1, 2, 3 punches of like songs in a row on an album?
Yeah.
That like what are like some of your favorite like 1, 2, 3 like 3 songs in a row where it's just like so good and defines basically like the entire album.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is a good example of like, it's like a 4 punch. It's like Celebrity Skin. I mean, I don't know what they are off the top of my head, but it's like Malibu and Hit So Hard and Awful.
Yeah.
It's like not in that order.
I mean, I will say, like, I just feel like on a conceptual level, I'm just like, yeah, I don't like Hole.
Mm-hmm.
But, if you start naming off the singles that came off of that album, I'd have to admit, like, yeah, that was pretty catchy. Like, I wasn't, if like Malibu came on the radio back then, it's not like I was changing the channel.
Yes. Right. Oh, yeah, for sure. And I mean, it's funny because I listened to that album so much that I basically can like sing the whole thing if I'm listening to it. Like I know all the words, like every single song. And I
Yeah.
was in the car with my daughter, and she's like, "Dad, why do you know the words to every song?"
What was your answer to that?
I'm like, "'Cause I just like, if I like a song, I have just gotten really good at just picking up certain things about them, and like
but is that like not a thing that kids do? It doesn't make sense to me.
Well, I
Who
think that
doesn't like if
like she didn't quite understand it, but then like a
how
few,
old is your daughter again?
so she's 10. So,
All right,
but
well
then
that's a little young still.
yeah, I think that she has a lot of that in me though, because when I was taking her to dance the other night, it's just me and her in the car, and I just like turned on the radio, and Tom Petty's "Free Fallin'" came on the radio,
Yeah.
and she like knew almost all the words to it, and I'm like, "When are you even listening to this? I don't even know when you listen to this." And
Yeah, that would
we
blow my mind a little
we
bit.
had this
Like, what?
moment where like we were both like just sitting, like she's like just old enough now and big enough now that she can like sit in the front seat with me.
Yeah.
And we were both there, and we just like sang almost the entire song like together. And it's just like I like in that moment, like I just like had to reach over and just like grab her and like hug her.
That's like probably one of those moments you're
It
never
was.
going to forget, you know?
Exactly. Exactly. And I've been telling her that I think that she should take singing lessons like constantly. But
Yeah.
I don't think that she likes to sing and wants to just kind of like, but I don't think that she wants to do it like in front of people. I mean, I told you
I
about
get
like
that.
my whole karaoke thing a few months ago and stuff.
Yes.
Or I'm not like a big singer, and I've always been afraid of singing. But then,
Yeah.
like I just had this moment where I went to karaoke with some friends, and it was like our first time. It was really the first time I'd hung out with a lot of these people, because when like I guess when you have kids, like a lot of your friends become like the parents of your kids' friends.
Yeah, I mean, I can kind of speak to that as someone who doesn't have kids, just because you don't lose friends, but you kind of lose touch with your friends because of what you just said, you know?
Right. So we had this moment where like it was somebody's birthday, and we all had like a far enough heads up time saying like, "Hey, let's go out and do karaoke. Let's get like a room and do karaoke." And I'm like, I mean, that sounds fun. I love watching people doing karaoke, but it was something about like the atmosphere and just being out with these people that I had never really been out with in this kind of atmosphere before, in this kind of situation. And I just like I sang so many songs. It was like almost probably
You just
like,
kind of let your hair down if you had hair.
yes, that is exactly it. And I just like ever since then, I'm kind of like, oh, like maybe I don't have a good singing voice, but like maybe it's just okay for me to sing out
Yeah.
loud. And it's just like that's
I think it's
okay.
kind of like, you know, how like good looks, are like to a certain degree, like good looks are not as important as like self-confidence. You know, like you can see guys that like, wow, how'd you get her? But it's like the guy's got charisma and self-confidence. Maybe it's the same thing. Like maybe it doesn't matter, you know, that you're not a perfect singer. The fact that you get up there and you're, you know, kind of, you're bringing the energy, you know,
and you
like,
and you pick the right songs. You know, it's
Yeah.
like going back to high fidelity. It's like it's not what you're like, it's what you like.
yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I always like that quote.
Although it's funny because in the book he kind of comes to the realization that he's wrong thinking that. That's part of the book is like, you know, maybe we're not right in thinking that way, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So real quick, since you brought up, if you have more albums, you know, based on my question, I do want to hear them. But just real quick, since you brought up Hole, maybe this is not even a fair question, but Hole versus Garbage.
Oh my God, that's I would probably. I mean, I'd probably pick Garbage because
Yeah.
like I like Garbage's first 3 albums a lot. I saw Garbage open for Smashing Pumpkins in '96, and then
Oh man, that'd be awesome.
so that was like right after their first album came out, and then I saw them
Yeah.
again in '98 or '99, right like as right when version 2.0 came out, their second album. And that was like I was like a big fan at that time. Like seeing them opening for Smashing Pumpkins, like I had heard like I'd probably just heard Queer on on 120 Minutes or something like that on MTV.
Yeah.
And
Maybe Only Happy When It Rains or something.
that was before Only Happy When It Rains was like
Oh, wow,
like
okay.
a single.
Okay.
So I probably just heard Queer on 120 Minutes. And so I was familiar, but then, like once I saw them live, I'm like, oh, this is great. And I like went out the next day and bought their self-titled first album. And it's funny because it was a very similar situation with when I saw Radiohead open for REM in '95, because I knew Creep, and it was like right when the Bends came out. Like I knew Creep from the radio, but like that's like really it. And then I heard some songs live from the Bends, and I immediately went out the next day and bought that album. And I mean, that doesn't happen very often, where you hear music live for the first time and be like, I'm going to go and get this.
Yeah.
It's like, it's the same thing as like when a band plays, like, here's a new song. And I'm like, oh, I'm not really too excited. I mean, but there are exceptions to that rule. Like when I saw, for the longest time, this is like a long way around getting back to Garbage versus Hole. Sorry.
That's fine.
But, it makes me think about hearing new songs for the first time live. And one of the bands that I saw, like, just not because like I really wanted to, but just because they came to Buffalo a lot, and I just wanted to go to like different shows, and I ended up seeing like the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones like several times. And I remember, and they said like, they were like, here's a new song, and it was The Impression That I Get, which was like, like their big
song,
hit.
yeah.
So like,
they seem like they would be a really good live band.
Oh my god, they were great. They were fantastic live. I mean, that's like one of the big, like when I saw them the first time, I was like I was very like unfamiliar with just about everything. Like my brother worked for a college radio station in Fredonia, like, which is like Fredonia State College, like in New York State. It's like in between where I grew up in Jamestown and Buffalo. And he worked for this radio station, and that's like, he would get like CDs and stuff like that, stuff they were just like kind of getting rid of. And when I was still in high school, I would go through these CDs and just like randomly pick songs off of them and make mixtapes. And we were talking about Sponge a couple like last week.
Yes.
And that was one of the CDs that he got, and I put
Rotting Pinata, the one with the candy corn on the cover. Yes, because one of the songs is called Candy Corn.
Oh, okay. But I think the first, I don't know, like I randomly picked, like just kind of went through it and put Plowed on a mixtape, and I'm like, this is amazing. So like that was just
this like you'd never heard it on the radio or anything?
No.
You just found it on the CD?
Just found it on the
That's
CD.
pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's such a good song.
Yeah, it is. It almost sounds like his voice sounds like it's been. I always felt like it didn't sound like a real person singing. Like it seemed to like it had too many effects on it, I guess.
I mean, I'm sure it had been processed in some ways.
But I guess like the long way around, like I would when I saw Garbage, I was like up against the gate and like very like front row, front row, and just it was a great show. And I would have to say, like, I would pick Garbage over Hole like any day of the week.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'd pick Shirley Manson over Courtney Love any day of the week. And then some.
I mean, she's certainly a much classier lady, I would say.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, anyway, so then we can get back to I mean, if you have any others that you wanted to mention, like albums that you can just listen to ad infinitum.
I mean, I wish that I had my CD book right here, and I could just go through all the things that I listened to.
Yeah, that would kind of be cheating. That's going against the spirit of the show.
Exactly. I mean, REM's Automatic for the People. Not my favorite REM album, but I can listen to, like, that is a great put it on so you can ignore it album.
Yeah. But that was kind of my point. It's like, something can be your favorite album, but something else can just be sort of the more listenable.
Right.
Right? Because, like, taking it back to movies, right? Like, some movies that I can watch over and over again are not what I think, like, oh, these are great. Like, I don't want to watch Shawshank Redemption over and over again, right? Like there's
Right.
in some places like that's a hard movie to watch, right? But it's one of my favorite movies because it's just an incredible movie. But there are many other movies that I could just watch, over and over again because they're just sort of, the movie version of like easy listening or something.
Yeah, they're like movie versions.
Yeah.
Like I just started putting on like Seinfeld, like on like
Right.
the Netflix when it was on Netflix. I don't know if it still is, but it's great because I wouldn't sit there and just like watch Seinfeld intently. I would just like have it on because that makes me think of when it was just like in syndication and it would be on like it could be like on any time.
Yeah.
But let me think, like other albums I could just like listen to over and over and over again.
All right. Well, while you're thinking about that,
Sure.
just because I made that comment about, you letting your hair down if you had any.
Mm-hmm.
The other day I was like, looking through the LL Bean, LL Bean.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Well, you don't know REI, so I don't,
LL Bean.
you don't have a lot of
it's
stuff
mail
over there. You don't know
order,
the
so
good
it's like-
guys. I mean, and it doesn't matter. So I was looking through the LL Bean online catalog, just looking for shirts or whatever. And like, I've noticed that now, these days, you look and they'll have like the modeling the shirts that looks more like a model. And then you click a couple pictures over and it's the same shirt, but now it's being worn by somebody with more of like my body type, which I appreciate because like sometimes it's like, that's a nice shirt, but it's not going to look good on sort of my pear-shaped frame. But, and then they'll also sometimes have like the old guy, like, oh, here's this guy in his 20s. And then here's like this kind of, somewhat fat guy in his 20s. And then like, here's a guy who's like in his, late 50s or something,
Yeah.
So that,
the
everybody.
silver fox type. usually.
Exactly. And that's kind of what I'm getting at though, is like, no matter what these guys look like, they always have incredible hair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like the fat guy still looked like he had like Andy Dalton hair, and I was just like, really, man? And then I get to like you say the silver
like all
fox,
wavy
he's got
and-
like
yeah.
yeah. It's like, hey man, what about us bald guys? Maybe that shirt looks good on a guy who's fat with awesome hair. Maybe on a guy who's fat with no hair, it loses some of its shine,
Yeah. I mean, I noticed that when I go into like Target or something like that, they have, I can't remember what the name of their brand is, but it's like something and company or something like that. I can't think of what it's called,
Yeah.
but they have like, I always notice this, the silver fox. He's got like this wavy hair. I'm like, this guy.
Anybody
this
that
guy's
good looking
Yeah, he's-
who cares that much about his hair is not buying clothes at Target.
Basically, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Unless they're getting him for free from
Yeah.
Target. Like that guy's probably just getting his like
And to be clear, I buy clothes from Target. The T-shirt I'm wearing under the shirt is a Target shirt. It's
yeah.
a good shirt too.
Have you tried those? You probably have seen ads for them, like on social media. Those true classic T-shirts, where they're like these T-shirts that are like cut in a certain way so that they make people like men who have like maybe a little bit more pudge, it's more form fitting for them, but like not in a bad way.
Yeah. No, I don't think I've seen those ads.
Oh, I mean, if they're like I see them on Facebook all the time. But like last year, my wife got me a couple of them, and they're pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. If True Classic wants to sponsor this podcast,
Hey,
they
I
can.
tried to get someone to sponsor the podcast this week. Didn't
Yeah.
work out.
Oh,
Yeah. No, I'm not joking.
what was it for?
Well, I'm not going to say the company because I'm still kind of working with them on something else. But like, they contacted me about sponsoring my show, but they weren't specific. They just said they wanted to sponsor my show, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I gave them, and they're like, "Oh, just let us know what your rate is," and I let them know what the rate would be. And like, she came back and gave me an offer that was like 1/10 of that.
Oh,
And so I just said, but the thing is, like, I'm trying to just not have bad, interactions and relationships with people. Cause it's like, you never know, just be polite and respectful. And maybe like next time that exact same person is working at some other company and reaches back out and remembers, oh yeah, you were not a jerk to me last time. So I was respectful, but I just said, I just can't do that, because the thing is the amount was so low, it's just not even worth my time, but of course I didn't say that to her, but for what she was offering, I was just like, oh, because she said, no, we were asking about your CGQ Plus channel. And I was just like, well, again, the rate was just so low. It's just like, it's not worth my time to do it in the first place. But it's also like, I don't really want to have sponsorship money getting onto the side channel. Like, that's really.
Yeah, because then that makes
for some reason for me, it's like that. I'm not down with that.
Well, it feels like it's more real then, I guess. Because I think the thing you like about that is you can just make whatever you want and not have it feel like.
I don't know. It's not just that. I feel like if I'm going to do a show like that, but then first I have to say like, hey, this episode of CGQ Plus is brought to you by whatever. It's just like, it would just feel real phony to me. I don't want to do that. But so I told her, I said, hey, my friend and I have started this podcast and, talked it up a little bit because for what she was offering, I was like, that's pretty much what you're going to get. And so like, I tried to kind of go that route. And so she turned me down on that, but then it was funny because then magically she found way more money.
Oh, really?
Yeah. She's like, oh, I can't do that. We want to have it in video form, but, would you take this? And it was like 5 times more than her previous offer. And I was like, well, now you're talking.
Yeah. Well, so just to be clear, for this podcast, the options for sponsors are like, they're on the table if people want to like have us try to like sponsor something on this podcast.
Yeah. I mean, my feelings are the same as they are on my show. I wouldn't let anybody sponsor anything that I did that if I thought that they were not on the up and up or whatever. Like we're not going to have NFT people. That's like the main thing I get now in my email box is like, purveyors of NFTs and whatnot trying to like pay me to talk up their stuff. And those I just ignore. But
yeah.
But yeah, and by the way, these IEMs that I'm wearing now are Sennheisers. So I don't like, hey, Sennheiser, where are you? Like this microphone's a Sennheiser, these IEMs are Sennheisers. I got a shotgun Sennheiser over there.
Although what if Electro Voice says we'll send you a RE20?
Hey,
so you guys have matching microphones.
I'm putting you both on notice. Like, hey, Sennheiser, if somebody else sends me a microphone, then maybe my days with you are over. And hey, Electro Voice, like, what's up? Anyway, so yes, we still have no sponsors is what it comes down to, which is fine.
Yeah, I don't even know where we'd find room to put a sponsor into our conversation.
I just got to find a break in the thing and just be like, oh, now a quick word from, Duluth Trading Company.
Oh, well, Duluth, I have some of Duluth Trading Company's boxer briefs.
Hey, me too. Do you like them?
Yeah.
You kind of paused there for a second though.
So I do. Oh no, I like them. Like they are like they're the only boxer briefs that I own.
Oh really?
Yes.
Or do you normally not wear?
I normally don't.
We don't have to talk about underwear on the show if you don't want to.
No, I don't care.
You brought it up.
No, okay. I mean I wear them. It depends. Depends on like what I'm doing. Like if I'm just lounging around.
What else are you like? What are you mixing those in with? Like briefs or boxers?
Just
or
boxers.
Commando.
Well,
boxers.
No, just boxers. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I'm 100% boxer briefs, and so I'm always trying to find like which ones are the best. So my thing with the Duluth Trading Company ones is I feel like the waistband is like really, I don't know, it's tall, wide, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's this big. It's just like a really beefy waistband, and that's the one thing I would say where like if you could kind of like dial that back a little bit.
Is it
because
so
it almost
big?
Feels like I'm wearing a belt.
Well, So the thing is like if you got a little bit of a, well, like myself, if you got a little bit of a like a pouch going on, right?
Yeah.
If that sometimes it'll be uncomfortable, like if that waistband it'll go flip down. Because it's so big.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Well, mine doesn't flip down, I think, because I'm wearing pants. But
well, no. Well,
I understand what you're saying. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It can.
But it's just like I just like I don't need underwear with like a built-in ratcheting tie-down strap. You know what I'm saying? It's just it's unnecessarily beefy. So
yeah,
I found like I resisted for a long time buying Patagonia underwear because it's ridiculously expensive, but it really is the best underwear I've ever had.
I've never.
Well, and the nice thing about Patagonia, which by the way, if Patagonia wants to sponsor the show, please feel free, is that like any Patagonia clothes you buy have like a lifetime satisfaction warranty or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like pretty much you buy the underwear and then you wear them out, and then you say, hey, give me a new pair. So like you're not paying.
So that's why they're expensive. Because
yes, and that's the way it is with all their clothes, like down jackets or like because like if you get like a rain, just like the little rain jacket, that has like that coating on it that makes it waterproof. That stuff kind of like breaks down and wears off.
Yeah.
Right. But if you buy like a jacket from say Patagonia or some other brands, as soon as it starts wearing off, you just say, hey, this one's, all used up, and they'll just give you a new one.
Well, I guess that shows like a belief in their product. Basically, you're buying something and getting like a lifetime, a lifetime supply, I guess.
Yes, exactly.
As long as, it doesn't fall into like a garbage disposal or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what would happen.
Like it just
anyway. I feel like the conversation is turning a little bit too consumerist at this point.
Well, we're getting now that we're like in December, or like we are
how
heading.
Much time? We still got some time, right?
Yeah, I mean now that we're heading though into December, like the month of December is all about consumer. Like I was.
That is true.
So did you ever work like in retail or anything like that? Like what was your like early jobs like pre like college?
Well, the first job I ever had was Radio Shack.
Okay.
And I worked there for 6 months, but I worked there over a Christmas season. So I got that. And like after that I worked sort of I worked at a zoo in like the gift shop.
Right.
So I guess that's retail. I mean, it is retail.
But it's not the same
not
as
really...
like working at Radio Shack like at Christmas
right.
and like having to work like Black Friday and also the day after Christmas.
Right.
And like we just have people like out the door. Was the Radio Shack in a mall?
No, I never actually. I think we only had one Radio Shack that was in a mall. So I worked at Radio Shacks that were in like strip malls.
Okay. Well, so I mean it's similar, but there's outside.
I don't know. I don't think it is. Like I feel like if you work in a mall, like you're just getting a lot of just walk-in traffic. Yeah. People are just going to the mall. I feel like people that came to our store were like they purposefully like got in their car and like came to our store. They weren't just like, oh, I was just over at Safeway buying some groceries and I thought I would just pop in and see if there's been any advances in like battery technology since the last time I was here. So,
and there still hasn't been. If Radio Shack was still around, like there's basically still not very much advancement. Not enough.
Remember Radio Shack? You probably don't remember this. They used to have like a battery card, like a frequent. It was like the Radio Shack Battery Club card, where like you went in there and bought a pack of batteries. They would stamp your card for you, and then like
oh, that's cool.
After like 10 purchases, you got like a free pack of batteries or something.
Well, as I guess rechargeable batteries weren't around then, I guess. Or if they were,
they were around, but they weren't like the technology was not very good.
Yeah.
Compared to like now. But I mean, kind of speaking of rechargeable batteries, I feel like the thing I sold the most of at that store were replacement cordless phone batteries. Like not cell phone, cordless phone.
With the metal antenna.
Yeah, pull the antenna out and everything. Yeah. Because those were like nickel. They were nickel cadmium, right? Which was like the early like rechargeable battery technology, and those were the ones that were really bad about sort of having like a memory, where the amount that they could be charged kind of quickly fell off. So like you weren't going to buy a whole new phone, right? If you had like a nice like Sony or AT&T cordless phone, you would just go to Radio Shack and bring your old battery, and we had Radio Shack branded replacements for all of that stuff. And I feel like that was kind of like the main thing, because I don't remember where I was just talking about like we sold all this stuff at Radio Shack, like TVs and like stereo equipment and computers, and like nobody came in there to buy that stuff. It was just like so that we could fill the sales floor with things, I guess. But like everybody came in there for like, cordless phone batteries and fuses and stuff like that.
Like little things that were a pain in the butt to get anywhere else. I don't know.
Especially back then, where else were you going to buy a cordless phone battery, really?
Yeah, I mean, I have no idea where you'd buy something like that, except for like,
I
calling
mean,
up
there must have been
calling up the
somewhere,
company and
but
spending how knows how long
right,
on the phone with them, then
right.
having to mail them a check or money order and wait for you to get it back. You couldn't even use like they probably couldn't even use a credit card, anything like that over the phone. I don't know,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you, I think that it's really important for. I was talking to some people that I work with yesterday about this, about how I think it's important for people to either work retail or work in a restaurant as a server.
Yeah.
And I think that if that was like a requirement, kind of like,
Like instead of compulsive military service.
exactly. I feel like the world will be a much better place.
I mean, yeah, when you're at like Starbucks or something and, you see some, Karen or whatever, like ripping into the barista, you can really tell like, wow, you've never worked at a job where like you had to serve customers in any capacity.
Yeah.
You would not be acting like that right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think that like people would be much happier and would be so much kinder to each other.
Yeah.
I mean, I never so I worked for Electronics Boutique for years, and a good thing about it is sometimes it teaches you to kind of stand up for yourself too when you need to. Like there was, if my friend Chris is ever like on this show, I mean he will be on this show, but he was a manager at Electronics Boutique for a long time, but. There was one time where somebody came in and wanted to return something like after we had closed. I was the only person working. And
like they came and were like knocking on the door and
yeah,
stuff?
yeah, like on the gate that you pull down because it was like in a mall. And I was like, no, we're closed. We can't do anything about it. And he's like, guys, it'll be so quick. I just know exactly what I need to do. And I wouldn't let him in there. And he apparently he went out and like punched the window out of his the driver's side window out of his car because he was so like angry about it. He's angry at me.
Because he didn't want to have to come back in the morning? Like,
yeah.
Wow.
So I'm sure that Chris has like many, many stories like that.
Yeah.
But I just think it's real important, especially, like working like both Black Friday and the day after Christmas. And, the day after Christmas was my birthday. So it was always horrible when I had to do that. So
yeah. Yeah.
I couldn't take it off.
Yeah.
But I just remember like the returns would just like the line would be throughout the entire store. I'd go to the back and around and go out the store and like along the wall, like along the news store and stuff like that. I don't know. It's crazy. But so you just worked there for 6 months then. You didn't you just worked through the holiday season essentially, like leading up to and then
well,
slightly after.
Well, what happened was I graduated from high school or I was getting ready to graduate from high school, and like my mom made it clear to me, like, you're not going to just like
do
live
this
here and do nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, you either need to be in school or you need to have a job.
Yeah.
Like you can keep living here. You need to either be in school or you need to have a job, which is completely reasonable.
Yes. Preferably both.
And like, I don't really know, like if I had enrolled in classes like at community college for the fall, like, could I have just lazed around the house all summer? I don't really know, but didn't matter to me. Like I was so sick of school by the time I graduated high school. Like these kids that go straight to college and just, you had a very different experience than I did. Cause like I really, really, really hated high school. And I was like, I don't want any more school for a while. So when she was like, you either have to go to school or get a job, I'm like, well, I'm just going to get a job. And, I had met this guy, this was back in like the BBS days, BBS.
Oh yeah. Bulletin board service.
Yeah. Yeah. So we had like a couple of BBSs where I grew up. They had like, 20 phone lines or something each, so that there was like a chat room with like, around 20 people in it. And so you would kind of but they were all local, right? Because we all lived in the same city. So it's like, you could kind of make friends with these people online, and then you could like go have meetups or go hang out with them or whatever. And so I met this guy on there who was like the manager of one of the Radio Shack stores. And he told me, he's like, when you graduate, come talk to me and I'll hire you to work in my store. So that's what I did. And like, he ended up being, I guess true to his word.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go interview with somebody else, but he probably just told the guy, I want to hire this guy. So, so that's how I got that job. Well, it's funny. I told, I told the story on an episode of my show.
Mm-hmm.
Like I did an episode talking about working at Radio Shack, and it was kind of, I don't know. At the time, I don't think I appreciated just how weird it was. Like looking back on it now, it's like way worse. But this guy was only like, I don't know, 19, 20 years old, and somehow he was the manager of a store.
Yeah.
But he had a wife, but she was 15 years old. Because they were like from, and I'm not trying to judge or
like
whatever.
Mormon.
They were from one of those states where you can do
like
that.
Utah.
I don't remember.
Is Utah one?
I honestly don't remember. I just remember they moved to California. Maybe because he got that job. I really don't even know. But because I remember I was like, wow, your wife is, because I was only like 18 anyways. But I was like, wow, your wife's like 15. Like, how does that work? And he's like, yeah, I just had to get like her parents' permission first or whatever. And I was, and at the time I was like, okay, well, whatever, because she didn't really have anything else to do because she's only 15. So like, she used to come to work with him and she would just kind of sit in the back room or whatever.
Yeah. Do you think they're still married?
I can't even remember either of their names. But anyway, so I got that job. Like this would have been in like June or whatever. And I worked there through the Christmas season. And then I really liked the manager that I worked for. Like the manager of the store I worked at was this guy named Ron. And Ron was just like a really nice, good person like to work for.
Yeah.
And I don't remember exactly what happened, but he ended up either quitting or getting fired. I don't remember why. And the person they brought in to replace him, I didn't want to work for. And so I told the district manager, I said that, I would like to transfer to a different store, like maybe a store closer to my house or whatever.
Right.
And I don't, that district manager never really liked me. Like looking back on it now, he was just trying to get me to leave anyway. He's like, well, we don't have any openings in any other stores. And I said, okay. And I remember I was on the phone with him at my store. And I just told him, I said, okay, well then I'm giving you my 2 weeks notice, And he's like, well, why don't you just go home right now? Which in this, in
like,
some states, like you can, no, I kind of felt kind of crappy about it. Cause it's like, I basically got fired for quitting, but like in California, that's perfectly legal. So like not even finish your shift. He's like, you can just go. And so I was like, all right. And so like, I ended up leaving and and it was at like the very beginning of January. And the reason I know that is cause, the local community college there was, and I'm assuming still is on the semester system. And so like the spring semester or whatever didn't start until like late January. So like I was able to just go ahead and register for classes.
Oh, that's cool.
And take a semester of college. So I didn't have a job for like the next 6. Like I didn't have a job during that semester, and I got my next job like that summer, like the summer of '96.
What was that job?
That was the one working at the zoo.
Oh, okay.
But that was like 3 different jobs. Like I got a job at the zoo working in a gift shop.
Yeah.
And then like that's a long story I'm not going to tell, but basically the little gift shoppy thing I was working at was like this temporary thing.
Yeah.
For like a rotating exhibit. And so like that gift shop closed, and so then the manager lady was like, I'm sorry, we don't really need you anymore. But then I got a job for a few months at the zoo being like a zookeeper's assistant, and like that was pretty cool. And then that job also ended because it was temporary. And then I got a 3rd job at the zoo, and I had that one for a few years.
So you must have known everybody at the zoo for pretty well.
Oh, yeah.
At that point.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Did everybody like hang out after work and get drunk?
No,
and stuff,
I mean, I think like,
up?
No, I didn't hang out. The only time I ever like my 3rd and final job at the zoo, I became pretty good friends with like, it was just me and this one other lady were the only 2 full-time employees in this one area. And I mean, she would have been my direct supervisor too, but we became pretty good friends. So like I would hang out, especially if it was like a Sunday, like after work, we would go out and drink. But I mean, it was never anything like, I mean, she was like twice my age and, married. We were just, I think it was more just like, I was going through my sort of semi-degenerate phase.
Yeah.
just like, smoking a pack of cigarettes a day and like,
Yeah.
maybe drinking on the job every once in a while. And so like, and she was kind of the same way. It's just like, we would just go out together and just like, drink a bunch of beer.
And you
And,
guys never messed around
what?
or anything?
No, not at all. Not at all. But it like turned
I
into
mean,
like
that
a
seems
Sunday
like a
thing.
ripe
Like,
situation for you to like be a home wrecker.
I mean, yes, but that nothing at all like that happened. So that's not the kind of relationship we had at all. So.
Yeah. You ever wonder?
She's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty
Do you
cool
still have any contact with any?
I mean,
with
I
any of
think
these
like
people?
we're friends. I mean, I am with her. Like we're friends on Facebook, but like you know how it is. Like you can be friends with somebody on Facebook, doesn't mean you actually talk to them.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't talked to her, but just based on some of the stuff I see her post on Facebook, I don't know that I want to talk to her anymore. I don't really want to go any more in depth into that. But
Yeah.
she seems like she went a little bit crazy a little bit.
I mean, I can guess what that means.
Yeah. But I mean, that was a very cool job working at the zoo. So I have some good memories there. But
That's cool. It sounds like, I mean, so did you get your job then like pretty like shortly after like finishing school or?
what, the job I have now?
Yes.
Well, no, I finished working at the zoo and then I just started going to school. So that whole time, this would have been like from like 96, 97, 98. I was working full time and I would go to school part time. Like I would take night classes.
Oh,
like I don't know if you ever did that, but
No,
like
I
in a
never
community
did.
college, you could take like some like, like lower division, like, there's like the classes you have to take it to check a box, right? Like
Right.
you have to take a history class. You have to take an English class. They would have like the option where, it was only once a week, but it was for like 3 hours, right? Because it was specifically meant for people with full-time jobs.
Yeah,
It would
yeah,
be
yeah.
like from like 6 to 9 p.m.
I mean,
on
that's
Tuesday or
that's
something.
how the improv class that I'm taking now
Yeah,
is
okay.
like.
So like I would take like a couple of classes per semester that way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe I took a history class that was like Tuesday night, and then I took anthropology class or whatever that was like Wednesday night. And then after a few years, once I left the zoo, I started going to school full time and working part time on the college campus.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got to a point because this was at a community college, right? So it was a 2-year school. But then I ended up getting into a 4-year university, and so then I had to move away, and which is where I still live now. But
Yeah.
I went to school there for a few more years and got my degree, and then got not my current job, but I got a job on campus.
So I've been thinking about just like doing like night classes, not like at a college or something like that. Like I said, I'm doing this this improv class, and it's every Tuesday from 6:30 till 9, and it's for.
Has that started yet? Because you haven't brought it up like at all.
I know. No, I have 2 more. I think it's awesome. I'm having a great time.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
I may have 3 more. But it's really got me thinking about how I want to like continue doing stuff, not like maybe improv,
Yeah,
but like I was thinking about just like, hey, I'm gonna like see what other kind of classes I can take that are just like one night a week,
yeah,
because almost like it's cool like learning the stuff that I learn in these, but it's almost more fun just like being forced in this situation where like you're just basically with like 10 other strangers, and you just like
Yeah.
hang out and talk, and it just feels like really good to just talk to people not connected to anything or don't like know any of the same people, and just
Yeah.
you just sit and joke around and just kind of like let loose and talk. And
But maybe you could make some new friends that way too.
well, exactly. I mean, that's the whole point, I think, is that it's nice to meet new people, like especially after it's been so long of not meeting
Yeah.
new people, at least that are not connected to like other things, like to like my kid's school or whatever. It's just like these are like 10 strangers in like getting together for 3 hours and just getting to be goofy. And it's okay because they don't know you. They don't know what you're normally like.
You could make up a fake name if you want.
Yeah. I had to sign up with my real name, but probably.
What's your middle name though?
My middle name is John.
So I'm saying you could go in there and like be like, oh my, just to kind of invent like an alter ego. You could, say, well, actually, people, I go by my middle name. People call me John,
Yeah. I could, but it's like, I don't know, like, it's just like such a typical name that I don't know.
Like, oh, what do you do for a living, John? I'm a lumberjack.
Yeah. I work at a zoo. But, like, whenever I hear my middle name, did you ever see that show? This is like, I was just thinking about it when I was driving my kids to school. After I dropped them off, I was driving home the other day. There was like a sitcom on when I was like very young. It had like what's his name, Judd Hirsch, in it.
Dear John.
Dear John, and the theme.
I don't
is
know
like,
why. As soon as you said, "Have you ever seen this show?" I was going to say, "Oh, is it Dear John?" Just completely joking. I could.
like,
I'm not going to.
Dear
I could sing you the
John.
theme song right now. Yeah.
Exactly. And I can't tell you anything
By
about this.
the time you read these lines, I'll be gone.
See, I haven't seen it in
Hey,
so long.
there's a cool guy on YouTube, this really old guy called Feature Man. Feature Man's pretty famous. Probably people have heard of Feature Man.
Feature Man. I'm not familiar.
Feature Man, and he was on. That's like probably his two biggest claims to fame is he was on Laugh-In. I think it was Laugh-In, but he was on Dear John.
He was like a character?
But now he's. I don't know. It was a kind of a minor character,
I
but
see.
it was like it was steady work for him.
Yeah.
and like now he lives in like Tennessee or something. He's retired.
I feel like that was
Cool
like a
cool
Saturday
show.
night. That was like a Saturday night sitcom. There was like this group of like
don't
sitcoms that are on Saturdays that like my grandparents watched, and I'd only see them when I would go down to Florida to visit them like every spring break. And it was like, and the Golden Girls was one of them. The Golden
Yeah.
Girls was only on a Saturday.
Did you watch Golden Girls?
Yeah. I watched it like when they watched it. There's another show
What about-
called Empty Nest.
That's what I was just going to ask if you. I was going to ask if you watched Empty Nest.
Yeah, was that the one like he's like a doctor?
Yeah. It was because Empty Nest is a spinoff. Like it's the same universe as Golden Girls.
Oh, I didn't know that.
But that show got my attention. I can't remember the actor's name, but like the main character of Empty Nest was in this movie called S.O.B. That is a really good. It's a really good movie. He plays a dead guy, kind of like Weekend at Bernie's, I guess, but
But not as good. Is it better than Weekend? I mean, I kind of.
it's better than Weekend at Bernie's. That movie has Julie Andrews in it, though, not Sandy Duncan. Since I got those two.
Wait, Weekend at Bernie's
confused a
does?
few episodes. No, SOB.
Okay, I was gonna say like.
But anyway, you were talking about Dear John.
I don't know. The theme song popped in my head, and just like this vision of him pulling the note off his door.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you anything else
that's
about
Judd Hirsch of Taxi and Independence Day,
Yes.
I think, fame.
Those are the two main things that I know him from, for sure. And like even more so, even like Independence Day more so than Taxi, because like
Wasn't he?
I understand that
he was like Jeff Goldblum's dad.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So when I saw Independence Day, I'm like, oh, that's the guy from Dear John.
Yeah.
Not like,
absolutely.
oh, that's the guy from Taxi.
No, I'm the same way. Like because I didn't watch that. Taxi's a little bit before my time,
Yeah,
and
same
like
here.
it was on in syndication, but I didn't like. I think I watched Dear John more.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like, yeah, that's Judd Hirsch from Dear John.
I should watch an episode. I'm sure there's
That's a good idea for a podcast. Is just like esoteric sitcoms.
where you just like talk about them, or like you just like watch
no,
it
I'm
like
just
an
saying you'd have
episode?
like, okay, this is episode 6 of whatever, and then like today we're talking about Dear John, or tomorrow we're talking about the Hogan family, or whatever. Like sitcoms that like they're not really famous anymore. It's like a conversation. Like, oh man, you remember that one show?
So I almost feel like we could just do that as part of this podcast. Like it's just like
Small Wonder.
Yeah.
Small Wonder.
yeah, it's like, is that the robot? It's just like
Yeah.
a robot. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like we could do that as part of this. Like, it's just, like, I'm sure that every once in a while, like, we'll do, like,
We're doing it right now.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, it just be like part of it. It's like, all right, we're going to talk about, like, say like, hey, like, let's watch a couple episodes of the show and just like talk about it exclusively and see, or
Yeah.
just see where that goes.
I'd be down.
Yeah.
Hey, you remember, I don't know if it was like 1 or 2 episodes ago that I was talking about the idea of like recording all that sports game footage.
Yeah. You're doing it.
And having like the 24/7 Twitch stream.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people are into that, dude.
Yeah.
I've already had a couple people reach out to me and be like, how can I get involved in this? Like, I want to help.
100%. I mean, I want to be involved. That would be about the same thing as something you just put on and ignore.
But that's exactly why I want to do it.
Exactly.
Because like that's what, because I put on, like I was saying, like I'll put on like NHL 94 and just let it run on its own.
Yeah, it's not like you're going to get
If you
invested.
let NHL 94 run on its own, I think it'll start, it might not be 94, but one of them, it'll start playing complete games. Like if you just ignore it.
And would they be like
think.
5-minute periods, or can you like make it so that it actually does complete games of like regulation length periods?
No, you can definitely, like when you go into the settings, like to set up your game in any of those games, where you set, the period length and all that kind of stuff, you can set the game so that the computer plays itself.
Oh, yes. Right. Yeah.
So you can also just go in there and just do that.
Yeah. You should.
But I'm saying if you do that, and then when that game is over, I think at some point it'll start a new game with like 2 different teams. Like if you just let it sit there and don't touch it. If I remember
that's amazing.
correctly.
Like, I mean, that's awesome. Like, that's just a great thing to put on in the background. And I think that if you had a whole channel like that, even if it like occasionally, like the only challenge with that would be like you'd basically have to have a computer that's sitting there streaming this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could just.
But I was thinking I could just take a computer to work and just plug it in my office and let it just sit there.
Yeah, you could probably just
That
get
way
like
it's
a
not
little, like even
in my
like a
home.
cheap like netbook probably, and it would do it.
Yeah, I mean, you wouldn't need anything fancy, that's for sure.
And just
And you could just have a huge playlist and just have it randomized.
yeah, forever.
I mean, you could have like auto races, like
Yeah,
I don't know. There's just I don't know. It'd be pretty cool.
I think you should do it. I mean, I definitely contribute to it, and you could just like take contributions from people.
Well, that's what people are reaching out and asking.
Yeah.
Like, can they like submit? And I was like, yeah, it's just like one guy asked, like, well, what would be like the requirements for that? And I was like, I mean, I think it needs to be 60 frames per second so it doesn't look weird. But other than that, like if somebody wanted to like record a game of Tecmo Bowl and like it was just recorded, in like composite.
Yeah, that's
fine.
That would be even more
Like-
fun. It's kind of like, just like almost like recordings from the era.
Yeah, and I was going to use like my overlays because I did start making some of these videos.
Could we
like,
have
I just
like?
took the.
Could you put like the Weather Channel stuff like in between?
I don't see why not. Were you? That was pretty impressive. Like, did you pay attention to that? You see the crawl
Yeah.
thing at the bottom of the screen. Thank you for watching the Classic Gaming Quarterly Weather Channel. I mean that was pretty cool.
I got to figure out how to use that.
It was long enough ago that I don't remember how to do. It was like 2 years ago, but it's just funny because like the only reason. Like that was a lot. That's the kind of weird stuff I'll do on my show. Like that was a lot of work, just for basically a joke. Because like one of the golf games that I talked about used the same music that has been used on the Weather Channel, and I wanted to just mention that.
Yeah.
So I made that entire thing just so I could use like a 5-second clip of like my Weather Channel playing that music, just because I personally just thought it was funny.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing. I like it. I think it's something. I mean, that would be popular. It's kind of just like when people like stream, like Twitch plays Pokemon or something like that. Although that's like I think they're doing that through like using inputs or something like that. People can like type stuff in and it will.
I mean, I know that like old sports games are not as popular as like, pretty much all the other old video games, but I do feel like there are people like me that are into old sports games, and I just feel like that's sort of a demographic, if you want to call it that, that's like really underserved.
Yes.
because people don't cover old sports games. They figure, well, no one's going to watch this, but, I still to this day, if people will email me and stuff to just tell me how much they enjoy that NHL 94 video that I did, just because who else does stuff like that?
Yeah. It's nice.
Like I could have done that exact same video or put that same effort into making like one about like Super Mario World or something, and it would have gotten,
Yeah.
probably 1 million views or more, but but that's been done to death,
Exactly.
But who else has like a cool historical retrospective of like a sports game?
Yeah. I mean, it's something that more people need to do. Or
Ultimately that's my point.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, I think you should
People
do it.
need to get it
and
together.
I think that people should flood your inbox saying that you should do it.
Well, it's just, there's lots of ideas that never get off the ground,
Yeah.
And so like, it's fine. I waste my time doing lots of stuff for my show that never sees the light of day. Cause like it seemed like a good idea and I started working on it and it kind of didn't go anywhere. And so it just never got past a certain stage, but I feel like the minute you start like accepting help from like outside people, it's like, well, now, it's I'm fine wasting my time, but you can't really tell other people like, oh yeah, you should, waste your time, creating all this gameplay footage for me and then have me not ever even use it. Like that's a pretty disrespectful thing to do.
Yeah.
So,
or like having them record
see,
like a Genesis playthrough and waiting weeks to do anything with it. Or Genesis Mini too. Like,
yeah, no, I understand what you're referring to, but that's different. Like to me, that was just an excuse to hang out with you. Like if you never do anything with it, I really don't care. It was just like, that was fun.
Yeah. Maybe we can put it on, we can put it on the YouTube channel.
Oh, you do whatever you want with it, man. Yeah. I've given it to you.
But I'm saying like, maybe we can put it on the, here's my question for you, YouTube channel.
I mean, in a way, if you think about it, it is sort of like, because it's the same style as what we're doing right now. So you could see it as bonus content. Yeah.
Yeah.
Think about it. Like I said, it's yours, so you do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
But
I will think about it.
But I always thought about, as far as going back to that sports game thing real quick, I always just figured like worst case scenario, if you kind of like wanted to pull the ripcord on that, like I'm not, wanting to do, because like you said, like setting up like a dedicated Twitch streaming box like that's a little bit involved, but it's like, worst case scenario, like I could just start a new YouTube channel called like CGQ Sports.
Yeah.
And just upload all that stuff and just have it all in the same playlist. And then somebody can just like load the playlist and hit shuffle and get the exact same experience that I'm talking about. I think it's kind of just the concept of like, there's this thing that exists that's broadcasting.
Yes.
That you can just choose to tune into, but you have no control over what you're going to watch.
That's what I like. That's
what I like.
Yeah, where it's just like, okay, it almost like makes it so that you will be exposed to things that you might not normally have picked. Also,
right? Yes, it's really easy to say I want to go watch a NHL 94 video, but it's a different thing entirely when you're watching. Like, oh, what game is that? Like that looks pretty cool. Maybe I want to go check out that game.
And then you get really excited when you see something you wanted to see. It like enhances that high.
Yeah.
Of like, yes, I was hoping it would be this.
Yeah.
And then you end up sitting and actually watching the whole thing. Which like defeats the point. But
you know what I think would be cool? Those headphones you're wearing,
Yeah.
Like I got this idea, like someone else did this with
the same color as my hoodie though.
It looks, you shouldn't have said that because it really looks like you did that on purpose. But I saw someone do this with a pair of Koss Porta Pros, where they had like 2 different color ear pads to make it, because then you can see like right side, left side.
Yeah.
Because like red is always right, white's always left.
Yeah.
You wouldn't want to do white for an ear pad. But if you had like, if your right ear was red and the left ear was like a blue pad, like I don't know like what's available, but I mean those are very, ubiquitous headphones you're wearing.
But so I had to get these separate pads for them, so I could probably.
That's what I'm saying. I'm sure you could probably get them in different. Because then if you had, if you bought 2 pairs of new pads, then, you put on a pair, and then when those wear out, you have another pair to put on or whatever.
Yeah, it's almost like taking controllers and like swapping parts in between them.
Exactly.
To make something unique. Anyways, I gotta go get my kids, so we should wrap this up.
Get your kids. All right. You've been listening to episode 7 of Here's My Question for You. If Corey has said anything today that you find offends your sensibilities, you can always email us at here'smypodcast@gmail.com, or you can find us on various social media as long as those social media outlets are still in existence.
Yeah, and you know what? Go easy on me. I mean, especially if you really hate Celebrity Skin, the album. Just
I can't imagine anybody writing
be
in
nice to me about it. Just like
call
go
you
easy
out for that. I mean,
know.
that's a very popular album.
Yeah, but still, some people maybe really hate it. Anyways, we'll see you next time, and take care.
Yeah.